Hey, I'm Dean and this is Legacy Voyage. In Season 1, I'm documenting my journey to earning my first 100K net worth as a full-time college student. Join me as I share some of the lessons I learned along the way.
I remember talking with someone a while back, and they were like, "Man, ever since high school, I've never really felt smart." And that really got me thinking about what exactly does it mean to be smart? Like, when we say another person is smart, what does that mean to them? Or if I say I'm smart or I feel smart, what does that mean? What does the word smart really refer to? Maybe that's my philosophizer mind speaking or something, but that's something that I was just trying to decipher. And I think I found something, or at least I'm on the track of finding a conclusion that's really just trying to decipher what it means. First of all, when we talk about being smart, I think it's important to say that it's more of a spectrum, like a range, instead of a binary thing. Like it's not like I'm smart or I'm not smart. It's more how smart am I or how dumb am I? And at first, I came to the conclusion that how smart you are is really just how excited you are to learn. And I think it's a pretty good definition, but it's not perfect because a lot of the times we see examples of someone who's not excited to learn, but we would still consider them smart. Or other examples where they are excited to learn, but we wouldn't say they're smart. So then I kept thinking about it because a lot of the times, if you really think about it, the things that excite you are the things that you're probably going to be smart in. Like for example, let's take math. When I was in middle school and high school, I was really excited about math because the feeling that I got after I solved a super tough problem, that excited me. I love that feeling when I would crack this tough problem and I raise my hand and get it right. That was awesome to me. So those are the things that I was smart in. But then when it came to like reading or history or things like that, I really did not care about that stuff at all. So those were the subjects that I didn't care about. So I wasn't smart in them. Although I think a better definition would be how driven you are to learn something. And the difference between being driven and excited, I think also is the same difference with like motivation and being driven, where motivation can come and go. Sometimes you feel motivated, sometimes you don't. In the same way, sometimes you're excited about something, sometimes you aren't. And I think if you're driven to learn something, then you're a lot more likely to be smart, or you're a lot more likely to learn that thing. But there's still words in there that I think we also need to define again, which would be what does it mean to be driven, and what does it mean to learn? I'll start off with learn because that's one that I think I've already kind of cracked the code on. Because for a long time, I would say that I learned something when in reality I didn't really learn it. I think the best way to say I've learned something is when you have the same circumstance but a different behavior. So, for example, let's say when I was in third grade, second grade maybe, I was learning my multiplication tables. You know, the ones that are like 2 times 2 equals 4 and then 8 times 2 equals 16, stuff like that. And we had to memorize and learn our multiplication table. Well, at the start of second grade, I really had a tough time with this one 8 times 8. I can never crack the code on 8 times 8. 'Cause it was such a weird number. 8 times 8, man, what does that mean? And then I practiced a little, and then eventually I learned 8 times 8 was 64. So at the start of the school year, if you gave me the problem worksheet and you asked me to fill it out and 8 times 8 came up, I had no idea what to put down. But then by the end of the school year, I finally learned what 8 times 8 was. So if you gave me the same problem, those same circumstances, the same worksheet, and the problem came up 8 times 8, and I'll write down 64, I would have a different behavior. I mean, that's what it means to learn something. To be driven, I think to be driven is more about, at least it should be more about becoming the type of person that you want to. Like, for example, there was this book called Atomic Habits. So for the longest time, I was very goal oriented. I always wanted to get a certain goal. I always wanted six packs abs and be able to make this source money this amount of time. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being goal oriented. But I think what's more important than wanting to achieve the goals is wanting to become the type of person who gets those goals. Like, for example, it's probably better to become the type of person who has six pack abs, to become a healthy person who eats well, works out all the time, who is a healthy person. It's probably better to become that type of person than it is to achieve the goal of six pack abs. Because the game of health is it's an infinite game. There's no stop to it. Once you stop playing the game of health, then that's when you lose. 'Cause that's when you go off the deep end. And I think that factors into what it means to be driven. Like, for example, one of my goals is to make 10,000. One of my goals is to make 10,000 by the time I end summer, by the time I go back to school. But I think what it means to be driven is to become the type of person who is disciplined enough, who's driven enough, who has the quality traits of someone who makes money, of someone who can make $10,000 by the end of a summer. And then bring this all back with what it means to be smart. I think looking back at my life and applying it to myself, I would say that I was usually pretty smart in math, which would mean I was driven or I wanted to become the type of person who's good at math. I think that's like the conclusion I came to. So a lot of semantics in this episode, but I actually really do think it's important to get clear on the definitions because it's dangerous to start putting labels on yourself. Like I'm not smart, or I'm not hardworking, or I can't do this or that. It's a lot more productive to put positive labels on yourself, like I am smart, or I am driven, or I am hardworking. But the thing is, it's hard to put those labels on if you're lying to yourself. Like I can't tell myself I'm hardworking when I'm super lazy and all I want to do is watch anime all the time, which is something that I did. I actually did that this past quarter. I would always tell myself, man, I'm a disciplined, hardworking person. But then there I was staying up till 3 in the morning watching anime. So when we do start putting on labels, it's important not to lie to yourself. And the way you stop lying to yourself is by introducing small habits, small things that are pieces of evidence towards the identity that you want to take on. Like if I want to take on the identity of a smart person or a person who is smart, then I start adding in tiny little wins to that identity. Like all I do is open my book when I get home, or I open my computer and type in one word in the essay. If that's all I do, then I'm slowly building up the identity of a person who is smart, who is hardworking, who is this or that. But yeah, that's a lot more philosophy going on in this episode. But I think it's important. Just trying to share some of the lessons. You know how it is. In terms of a life update, not really much has gone on since the last episode. Because I'm doing these daily. I think if I were to give an update, an update would be last night I was staying up watching videos on how to run an agency, which I've now realized. I realized it that night. I was like, I should stop doing this because it's a lot better to get good sleep at night and then wake up the next day and really set aside time and put in deep work into studying how to run an agency rather than watching it on my phone on YouTube at 11 and staying up. So I guess that's another little life update along the lesson. But continuing to record my journey. Oh, I was talking with my dad. Oh, yeah, yeah. I was talking with my dad and I was talking with him. I was like, and you know what a good idea would be a podcast interviewing some of my classmates, some other students at Northwestern. Because some kids over there, they're gonna be the next Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, like the leaders in the world, like even political leaders, probably the next president or something. And I was just thinking how cool it would be if I was their first interview. And if we caught a glimpse into how Elon Musk was thinking when he was in college, or what Mark Zuckerberg was up to when he was in college, or Steve Jobs. I heard Steve Jobs was kind of a weirdo when he was in college, but not a weirdo, but a little hippie. But how cool it'd be for me to be the first interview and for all of us to get a glimpse of what they were like back when they were in college. I feel like that'd be sick. And all the resources are on campus. Like, I think they have space to do it. They have the equipment to do it. That'd be kind of cool. Start interviewing some students. That'll probably be a separate thing from this podcast. Or maybe that I might add it to this one because it's like their legacy voyage. It's their journey, and then they're sharing some of the lessons that they've learned on their journey. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I think that's it for this episode. I shall see you on the next one. Till then,